Hello, everyone, and welcome. Sorry, just sending out invites, got music on. Bear with me, just getting through the invites. Get going there, guys. Hope everyone's doing good on this Sunday evening. So much to unpack from this weekend, especially today in the news. So, guys, stick with me, stay tuned, pull up a chair, light yourself some green if you feel so inclined. And stick around. Thank you so much for that already, guys. You are fantastic. Sorry again, just working through getting invites out here, guys. You could do the same. Get some invites out there. Tapping is clapping. Let's get the numbers up. Get them. Get the algorithm thinking of us here on the Progressive Moose News. All right, guys. Hello. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. TikTok around the clock. Thank you so much for the follow. Uh, Absolutely feels needed today. Pasty Native, thank you so much for joining. Smarshy, hello. Yeah, there's been a lot. Smarshy, I think everyone's pretty tired at this point with the way everything's been going and how chaotic things are. But you know what? There's light at the end of the tunnel, and I feel like we will be seeing that hopefully sooner than later. Alrighty, Smarsh, I will be here. Guys, can you hear the music in the background okay? Is it too loud? Is it cutting me in and out for talking? Let me know how the audio levels are. Thank you so much for the ice cream, Pasty Native. So much for that. Okay, just wanted to make sure my levels were alright. Guys, you are joining me for the Progressive Moose News. We've got about 10 minutes until the show starts. So, guys, tapping is clapping, sharing is caring. And I really appreciate everyone that does show up for the conversations, especially on Sunday evenings here on the Progressive Moose News, where there tends to be a lot of news coming out of the political aspect of things in Canada over the weekends, since Mark Carney was really voted in as leader of the Liberal Party and moving forward. So much to get to and to unpack from this weekend alone. So that's what I'll be focusing on for the majority. Awesome. Thank you so much, Zayden. Appreciate that. Oh, commercial time. Move stuff around a bit. Bear with me. There we go. Hello, Nair. Good to see you. Nikki, I think I see your name there. Welcome. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am the Progressive Moose. I live in Northern Ontario, Canada, guys, and you are with me as we get geared up for the Progressive Moose News, where I will be breaking down the latest political news happening this weekend, literally hours ago at this point. So, guys, stay tuned, stick around, share the live, guys. Let people know we're here. We're going to be talking about the political landscape that's been shaping over the weekend and where we sit. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. Keep tapping. Let's see those numbers get up, guys. I want to see 5K before the show starts, so that gives us 10 minutes to hit 5K. Let's get it up there, guys. Share the live out as well. Let everyone know that I've got the live going. We're going to dive into the conversation in nitty gritty shortly. Uh, yeah, there's been so much, guys. Especially, I mean, of course, right now with our political landscape, a lot of stuff, a lot of thoughts and concerns as per dealing with the United States and Donald Trump and the tariffs, how that stuff affects our economy. Um, Coming up, really, for lack of better words, coming up with a game plan on the federal level for Canada to move forward and lessen the impact of this, which also part of that is negotiating trade and figuring out other trade routes, whether it be with the EU, I believe Denmark, China as well. So, bunch of different avenues already kind of focused on, looked at. Trudeau started that process before he stepped aside, and Mr. Mark Carney took the helm. And Mark Carney as well has been on the go. He's already done a trip overseas to speak with other world leaders, both on trade and what the world is seeing with the United States. I mean, yeah, Canada is massively affected, guys, but you got to remember we're not the only ones. So many other countries are being affected by so much that the American government has been doing under Trump. So, um, yeah, just them trying to bolster our position and the conversation with what's going on with the United States on the global level. So that's been good to see, really moving the ball forward and getting things rolling on that sense. Mark Carney as well did make a couple of notes today uh, in the beginning of his campaign speech, for lack of better words. So down some of the stuff that he talked about he will be doing that he and the Liberal Party have at this point. Um, yeah, it's absolutely is a lot, guys. We heard from most of the party leaders today, and so I got a breakdown of the majority of that stuff, what was said, what they're looking at in terms of platforms so far. I'm actually really hoping. Sorry, guys. Bit of dry throat there. I really apologize for that, everyone. Um, yeah, and just the different rhetoric coming from different leaders on the federal level when it comes to the election, when it comes to how we move forward as a country, dealing with the United States and everything else that uh, comes with dealing with the tariff threats and the really blatant attacks against Canadian sovereignty, right? So keep that in mind. Make sure and realize that that stuff's still going on moving forward. So we're not out of the red, so to speak, yet, but we are getting there. Guys, I really appreciate everyone that's here. Again, don't forget to share the live. Let people know that we're here, we're gathering, going to be having the conversations on the political level as to what we're seeing over the weekend and what we'll see moving forward. Really appreciate everyone. Thank you so much. Just sending out some more invites again here, guys. We're getting geared up. Just sending out a couple more. There we go. Let's see if we can get a bit more people in the live here. before we get going, guys. We got 5 minutes until showtime. Time to turn the music off, kind of bring it, get ready for bringing you the info that I have for you. My beer team, Canada. Yeah, guys, the beer team, Canada. Patch, pretty worn. That's from my days doing competitive beard competitions. And all stuff is held by different clubs across Canada, United States, and all the money raised goes towards charity that whichever club it is has chosen to work with. I myself am vice president of the Northern Ontario Facial Hair Club, and our charity is the Ronald McDonald House in Sudbury. So that's something that we felt very strongly about, as a lot of our members have had times where they've needed the um, Ronald McDonald House, so to speak. So it really kind of hit home. So that's the one that we chose. But yeah, Beard Team Canada, based out of Toronto, but of course it's Canada wide, and just representation on the competitive beard circuit for Canada. Am I pro choice or pro life? I am pro choice. I believe what, apologize. I believe that women have a choice and it is their choice. Nobody else has a say in it but them. Guys, we are 3 minutes away from showtime. Keep tapping that like button, guys. Let's get the likes up a bit more. Really appreciate everyone for showing up. And don't forget to share the live out. Let people know that we are here, we are gathering, and we're going to be diving into the nitty gritty of the political news over the weekend. I'll admit my notes are a little frantic as I was jotting stuff down kind of all over the place. Um, while watching all the live coverage of everything going on today. So bear with me as I might be flipping through pages. I do have notes on the computer as well, which is behind my camera right now. Um, but as again, I've got a notebook that it was quicker and easier to jot down in here. So I did that as well. So, oh, there's been so much, guys. There really has been. Today has been jam packed with a lot. So hopefully I can bring you the best detailed news or information, I should say, that I have. As well as, guys, you know me, I'm always up for having a conversation. So if at some point you feel compelled to come up and join the conversation, if you have a different take, different opinion, maybe some information that I missed, please feel free to send a request to come up, and I would love to have the conversation with you if you do choose to come up and be a part of it. Excuse me, guys. Sorry. All right, we are 1 minute till go time, guys. Miss Radical, good to see you. I see your name in there. Hope you're doing good on this Sunday evening, Miss Radical. If you so choose to come up and be a part of the conversation, I would love for you to be a part of it. But if not, no worries. Hello, Desiree. Good to see you. Guys, I'm so happy that everyone's here. Thank you, Miss Radical. I really appreciate it. All right, guys, we are currently at 8 o'clock. So, welcome to the Progressive Moose News Hour. I am just going to get going here. Couple housekeeping notes, guys. Of course, as always, I have live goals going on set up at the top there. If you feel compelled to, I really do appreciate the support. I can't do it without you guys. So, again, thank you so much for everyone that has stuck with me, has supported me, and showed me so much love. Uh, I really appreciate it. That's the best I got because I don't know how to put it into words. Yeah. So all that's there, guys, as well. You see that little orange goldish heart there? If you haven't hit that yet, guys, become a part of my team. Let's do this together because we are all in this together, and it's about doing it as a collective. So if you feel compelled, guys, that's there as well. Become part of the team, and let's all do it together moving forward. Before I get into the deep stuff on the political side, I do have a mention I want to do, kind of a shout out. I get up this morning, my routine, I get up, I make coffee, um, I sit down and I watch the most up to date news kicking around, keep myself informed, of course. And one thing that popped up, guys, APTN, so that's APTN National News did a investigates. They do a great deep dive into things. So they did a investigates inside policing deadly force. You can find that on YouTube. It was posted within the last couple days, and it I'll admit it was a tearjerker, but guys, it's so powerful and so important to get that information out there. Just for a little context, they talk about John Wells, who was in Alberta, unfortunately lost his life on in September of 2024 um, due to police misconduct, and it really highlights other cases as well. It really talks about the different stats, talks about the push for the federal government to focus more on this stuff, do a more national inquiry into the just really the amount of Indigenous life lost with police or law enforcement involved in one way or another. Um, so yeah, again, guys, that's on APTN National News. You can find it on YouTube or on their other platforms as well. Go check it out. They do a really good job on that one. So kudos to them on that. Yeah. So with that being said, guys, let's get into what has gone on. I've got so many notes, so I might be jumping around a little bit. If I do, I apologize, guys. Hopefully, it'll be functional sentences and all make sense as I move forward. So, guys, here we are on Sunday, and as promised, Prime Minister Mark Carney met with the Governor General and dissolved Parliament and, as he did so, continued to walk out and call a federal election for April 28th. As on numerous occasions, he himself and others within the Liberal cabinet echoed that an election would happen to give the federal government a proper mandate moving forward as the Canadian government shores up the country's economy and weathers the current tariff wars and threats to Canadian sovereignty from the United States. Prime Minister Carney is asking, in his words, for a strong positive mandate from Canadians. Carney says the Liberal government will remain strong and firm towards the United States and Trump by strengthening interprovincial trade, extending supports for small businesses, as some of the examples. As well, there have been expansions to the EI system to help workers navigate what's going on right now as they are facing layoffs and job sharing kind of cutbacks. Excuse me. He also, while coming out and starting his campaign announcement, announced a middle class tax cut by lowering the lowest tax bracket by 1%, which would see a cut to households with two people by roughly $875 a year on average. Guys, that is huge. Um, I mean, that's the best we've seen from the federal government. Even I realize conservatives aren't in power. Yes, they're the opposition, yada, yada, yada. But fact is, you haven't heard anything like this out of them, anything substantively. They say axe the tax, they keep going after taxes, but they don't actually say how they would go about cutting what taxes, by how much, what the impacts would be. But Carney announced again today while he was talking about his platform and announcing the election that 1% for really everyone. It's not focused. It's just a 1% broad tax cut. So it's fantastic. Bolstered that we have everything we need here at home to build a stronger Canada and need to bolster Canadian trade within as well as diversifying trade on a global market, which he's already been doing, guys. As I mentioned earlier, he has been making trips abroad and speaking with other world leaders within the EU and other different countries around the world to shore up different trade negotiations and, you know, finding new avenues so we aren't so reliant on trade with the United States and being so interconnected with them. Um, in terms of trade and manufacturing in a lot of ways. So, yeah, he made a point of saying that negative slogans will not help Canada navigate forward as a country, uh, has as a country, which absolutely is a swipe at the Conservative Party under the leadership of Pierre Poilievre. Uh, Guys, negative slogans, Canada's broken. Um, all the other nonsensical slogans that the Conservative Party has had um, this entire time. And I will make a quick distinction, guys. I don't know if you would have seen it or not, but there was the one um, press conference that Pierre Poilievre did that on the front of it, he's trying to change into different slogans. So the biggest one that stood out to me um, was boots, not suits, was on his pedestal in front of him during the one thing. Um, and I laugh at that because, Pierre, how about you go put on some boots, put on a hard hat, and get to work on the line with those workers? Okay. Once you do that, you can use a slogan like that. I will give you permission. But he's really having a hard time finding his footing, finding his messaging at this point, other than axe the tax, right? That's still his main go to because he still wants to cut the carbon tax for the corporations, right? And to be clear, the Liberal government under Mark Carney now has already slashed the consumer carbon tax. Okay. And that also includes, okay, so us as consumers, that includes small businesses and that includes farms as well. Right. So really the only entities paying carbon tax at this point are the biggest polluters, are the companies and corporations, right? Um, so that's keep that in mind moving forward. And that's why you see Pierre Poilievre having a hard time trying to change his messaging because he doesn't know how to weather this now, especially with a lot more focus on what's going on for the United States and tariffs and dealing with Donald Trump and the American government and administration right now with everything going on, right? So that's something as well. Pointed out that when President Trump cut foreign aid, a couple days later, Pierre Poilievre made a press conference style up in Nunavut. Um, it said that the conservatives under a conservative government that Pierre Poilievre would cut foreign aid as well. Okay, and more context: Pierre Poilievre didn't talk to anyone, didn't talk to the premier in Nunavut, didn't talk to any representation of really any form of government. So, to say that that was just complete political BS for him to do so, absolutely. But again, pointed to the fact that Pierre Poilievre would cut foreign aid spending just like Donald Trump would. Okay, so this is the things you need to pay attention to where yeah, Pierre can sit there and say he's against Donald Trump and all that nonsense, but at the end of the day, he's talking about and doing the exact same BS. It's the same playbook Donald Trump has, right? So trying to get themselves apart from that. Yeah, absolutely. The just take con mindset. Absolutely. Um, yeah, so he says that the Liberal government is focused on flipping how government looks on spending. And this is a key point, guys, that I want to make sure I put emphasis on. Um, so Carney has said that the Liberal government is focusing on flipping how government looks on spending from dollars spent to the overall outcome and benefit to the future. Again, highlighting a build Canadian and strengthen the Canadian economy, spend less government money and focus on results. So essentially, what he's saying, what they're planning on doing is doing more targeted spending towards things that they know that as an investment over time will benefit the country in one way or another, right? So investing in workers, investing in small businesses, making sure the supports are there for workers that are going to be losing their jobs because of this whole tariff nonsense with Donald Trump, all that sort of stuff, right? So it's targeted spending that's going to keep the economy going and keeping people with the money that they need in their pockets to weather what's coming at us right now currently. Um, so to me, that's a big, big point right there. Um, uh, yeah, so again, highlighting to build Canadian and strengthen the Canadian economy, spend less government money and focus on results, will invest in building housing, small businesses, and job growth. So key factors, and I'm sure moving forward, trying to deal with the tariff stuff and the Canadian and the impacts to the Canadian economy, while still focusing on the issues here at home that need to be taken care of. Um, right? So we we definitely need to focus on the tariffs in the United States and what Donald Trump's doing, but we still need to focus on the issues here at home and take care of the stuff that already we're under crisis with, right? Whether it's housing, whether it's addiction, so many different things that Canada is dealing with that we still need to focus on while, again, weathering through this tariff nonsense. Um, and he goes on to say that strengthening things like pharmacare and the federal dental plan would be investing in Canadians' health overall and is an investment in Canadians' future. So, right then and there, he's already said that, and it's already, the expansions are already coming for the dental care. The Liberal government under Carney is expanding the National Dental Program and the National Pharmacare Program. And like he said, when you invest in Canadians, when you invest in their overall health, give them what they need to be healthy, to work, and to contribute in that aspect, you're going to have good results, right? Keep Canadians healthy means the economy is going to keep moving forward. That is a big point that I want to point out that's what he said, and he's looking at it correctly, right? At that, you can't argue with that. So he's still going to move forward when it comes to taking care of Canadians, which is fan fucking tastic. Apologize for my language, but it's great to hear out of, a prominent front leader politician at this point. Art, good to see you. Thank you for coming. Sorry, guys, squirrel. I always love seeing Art. Art, hope you're doing good. Um, he was asked what he thought about Danielle Smith's actions. So before I get into this aspect, I do want to highlight this. So Danielle Smith, there is a recording out there now that Danielle Smith was talking to the Trump administration and asked them to pause all the tariff stuff to help the conservatives in the federal election. Okay, how nonsensical, guys. You're asking a foreign government to get involved in stuff to do with a federal election. Okay? We have laws against foreign meddling in our election. And that absolutely would be a way to interfere, especially when it's trying to bolster one specific party. Okay? So, um, That's for context. And you guys can go look into this. This is fact. This is stuff that has been now a couple days now on the airwaves. So it's vastly available out there. You can find this stuff. Um, so when he spoke, oh, here we go. So he was asked what he thought about the Daniel Smith actions in speaking with Trump's administration to pause the tariff war to benefit conservatives in the election. To which he replies that it is telling to Smith's stance on the similarities between the two, Pierre Poilievre and Trump he's speaking of, is telling, and hopes that Smith will work with the rest of Canada to be united as we move forward with strengthening our nation. Desiree, thank you so much for all the gifts. Thank you so, so much for all those cones. You are amazing. Sorry guys, I have to thank you so, so much. You are unbelievable. Thank you. Um, yeah, so really bolstering guys, and um, Prime Minister Carney met with premiers on Friday and did make remarks in terms of that, saying that he's hopeful that we can move together as a nation, as one, when dealing with the American tariffs and Trump, as well talked about strengthening the Canadian economy, taking it from 13 economies and bringing it into one, right? So getting rid of issues with interprovincial trade, and really just bolstering one another and bringing all those economies into one Canadian economy, one united economy. So he says he's hopeful. Yes, you've got your outliers, most notably Daniel Smith, of course, given what I just told you and what we've seen through the news. Um, on her stance on things and how to deal with stuff moving forward. So keep that in mind. All right. Thank you so much for the cowboy hat. Thank you. You guys are fantastic. Um, I really appreciate that, guys. Thank you. Sorry, I kind of squirreled out there for a second. Um, Yeah, so and then he went on to talk about immigration policies and levels. So he spoke of keeping immigration caps in place. It would not be able to determine when they would be lifted, adding, we need to build housing and make sure we have the housing for Canadians and enough to be able to start seeing a change in immigration caps and laws. So pretty much saying like, guys, we can't change anything at this point. I mean, we're struggling with housing as is. Let's get that housing market under control, and taken care of. And then once we start to see surplus, then we can start looking into different ways that we can bolster our economy and immigration. Once we have those things in place, and we're more in the position to open up on immigration a lot more, right? Thank you so much, Pasty Native. You are fantastic. Thank you so much for all the gifts, guys. I really, really like you. You're blowing me away tonight. Um, yeah. So when asked about having discussion with Trump, there's no meeting planned between the two leaders. Before anything can happen, Prime Minister Carney uh, said that Trump has to admit that Canada is a sovereign nation publicly and stop the nonsense in regards to that conversation. So essentially saying like, you know what, Trump, you need to smarten the hell up, admit that we are a sovereign nation, and that we will not become a part of the United States. So being very strong and firm in that sense out of the gate when it comes to dealing with Donald Trump and his rhetoric and nonsense. So that's very, very good to see. And it looks like he's not going to put up with BS, right? So that's one thing that Canadians are looking at and trying to figure out who would be best to deal with Donald Trump and his administration with the tariff situation, and to come out of the gate with such a strong message towards Donald Trump is fantastic. He doesn't dance around it. He's right there in the face, and you can't criticize him for that. He's standing up for Canada, and that's there can't be an argument there. Thank you again for the gifts, guys. Thank you so much. Maggie, Mark Carney, right out of the gate, was pretty firm with his comments today, saying that Donald Trump would have to come out and publicly say that Canada's a sovereign nation and we would have no part in becoming a part of the United States. Hello from Stratford. Hello, I'm in Northern Ontario. Thanks for joining, guys. Maggie, not a problem. All right, so moving forward, guys, remember if you have thoughts that you want to add or maybe more information that I haven't said, by all means, send a request to come up, be a part of the conversation. Or if you look at things a bit different than I do in terms of breakdown or different things you might have got through what was all gone on today on the federal level, please, by all means, I want to hear from you. I apologize, guys. A little dry here. Yeah, guys, don't forget to share the live. Tap that like button. Tapping is clapping. Sharing is caring. Most of my live goals are met up there, guys, which I really appreciate. Thank you so, so much. Um, BC, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Guys, we have people from across Canada joining in. We always do on our Sunday show here, so I really appreciate it, guys. Put in the comments, where are you from? Let's see where you're from. I want province. I want to see every province pop up in that comment section. Put your province in the comments, guys. Let's see if we can get right across Canada in there. There we go. We got Ontario. There we go. Alberta, Ontario, New Brunswick. There you go, guys. There we go. We're getting it. We're getting it. Where else we got? Alberta, Ajax, Ontario. There you go, guys. We got everyone across the board. Look at this. BC's in here. We got Ontario again, New Brunswick. Guys, you guys are fantastic. We are Canadian. Elbows up, everybody. United front across Canada. We got this, everybody. So, moving forward, with all that being said, let's keep moving because there's so much more to get to. Um, and I'm pretty well halfway through the hour. So, Pierre Poilievre, even before Mark Carney came, even before Mark Carney met with the Governor General to dissolve Parliament and call the election, Pierre Poilievre was front and center, starting his campaign off, making his announcement on that front. A lot of things that he said. Bear with me. I've got so many notes trying to keep up with all the different talking points and all the different nonsense. Um, Shannon, you can send me that video if you would like. Give me some time to get to it, but I promise you I will take a look. So send it to me, and I'll do my best to get to it when I can. Okay. So conservatives, Pierre Poilievre come out, lost. Before we actually get into that, I want to. Sorry, looking at my notes, I do have some other notes as well. So one thing to keep in mind that the conservatives have lost the last three elections under three different leaders. Harper, O'Toole, and Poilievre have all lost the federal election um, the last three times. So keep that up. Their track record isn't good at this point, um, in recent history, anyway. So, one of their new slogans that they try to get off the ground is boots, not suits. Guys, I mentioned that earlier. It's They're really having a hard time struggling and pivoting their platform and their messaging to fit what's actually going on right now, and trying to really make themselves look different than Republicans and Trump down the United States. Because, if you know politics, you know that the equivalence of conservatives and Republicans is they're the same tree. Okay, they're two different apples, but they come from the same tree. And especially when you see Danielle Smith doing and saying the things that she has, that really kind of bolsters, like, nah, they're more aligned than a lot of people like to tell themselves, right? So don't kid yourselves on that one. Um, Thank you so much for the follow. I really appreciate it. Um, yeah, so lies about Carney's stance on pipelines. Okay, so guys, Mark Carney has already come out and said a couple times in terms of pipelines that he is open to pipelines, and he essentially wants to create like a uh, energy corridor across Canada. So he's open to different things like pipelines, natural gas lines, all that sort of stuff. He hasn't specifically said much in terms of other than energy corridors. Um, and is facing a bit of pushback from the Bloc Quebecois, as they are saying they don't want any sort of pipeline or anything uh, closely resembling running through Quebec. So they are seeing some pushback on that stuff. But again, I mean, they haven't said directly what they would do in terms of energy or pipelines or anything like that. But again, they want like an energy corridor running across the country. So we'll have to wait, get a bit more information moving forward through the election. And I'm sure they'll explain a bit more moving forward on that one. But so they're not necessarily opposed to pipelines. So that narrative that Pierre Polyev is trying to put out is not factual. Um, Pierre Poilievre's first rally is in the GTA, which is the Greater Toronto Area here in Ontario. It's the biggest key battleground, being Ontario, and within that, the Greater Toronto Area being the most key area um, that all the parties are going to have to hammer and do their best to get to persuade voters, get the votes in the GTA. Um, yeah, and there's other key battlegrounds as well, guys. British Columbia, BC definitely is one. Especially seeing the way that it went for their provincial, how close it was between the NDP and the Conservative Party in BC. So definitely a battleground that will be focused on as well. And I believe Mark Carney is actually going to be running in a riding in the Ottawa area. So he will be taking a seat in the Ottawa area, trying to win a seat in the Ottawa area, I should say. Um, who am I voting for? I don't honestly want to say that yet. I am undecided at this point when it comes to this election. So I'll keep it at that. There's a lot of stuff, guys. The election is called for, I believe it was April 28th. Yeah, April 28th. So we've got just over a month. And, they need to get their platforms together. We'll see debates. We'll get all the information. Um, I People are asking how I'm going to be voting. So just on that quick, guys, and then we'll move forward with what else I have here. I will be voting. Guys, I look at voting as I realize the party has to stick together, and I realize, when you have a leader, it's important to look at what the stance of the party as a whole is. So that's where the leaders of the party come into play, right? You want to know what the core values of the party is, of each party, and they're the ones to bolster that. But guys, you have to look at your local ridings. Okay, that is how the system is set up. You vote for your local riding to represent you in Parliament, um, if they win that seat, right? So you have to keep that in mind. You have to look at your local politician, and then, yes, you have to take into account what the core values of the party is under the leadership. Okay, and let's be very honest. This is already out of the gate a very different Liberal Party than we saw under Justin Trudeau. There is massive differences. Okay. Mark Carney has talked about cutting the capital gain increase, so that will not increase anymore. Okay. So there's very different ways that Carney's looking at things compared to what the Justin Trudeau Liberals did. So we have to keep that in mind and use the nuance to break down those differences, right? Very different party. Um, yeah, and to be honest, Carney is moving the Liberals kind of more right towards the Conservatives. But again, guys, he's coming in at a time, and he really picked the perfect time because he's coming in with the vast knowledge and understanding and experience of dealing with countries' economies going through hard times, right? It's perfect timing. There's nobody better suited for this job right now as prime minister to get Canada through this. I am an NDP voter normally. I am a progressive, guys. Okay. So I absolutely I am for the people. And I think he has enough nuance under his belt to realize there are social programs and spending that need to happen to invest in Canadians, but also realize you can't go too far with the spending. And it's a fine line trying to balance everything we need right now amongst all the global trade issues and how the economy is going to fare through all that. There's so many different aspects, and I could not even try to understand or even try to say that I'd be able to do it. Okay, and that's where his expertise comes in. He's globally renowned for dealing with finances, so there really is no one better option at this point, in my opinion, guys. And I'm just being real with you on that. I do believe that the NDP does have a strong message. Unfortunately, I don't think, given the way the polls are going, that they're really going to have too much of a chance in this election. And I realize take polls with a grain of salt, but the NDP under the Singh leadership, I don't think is going to move the goalpost forward. They've lost quite a bit of support. If the polls are correct right now, in the last couple of weeks alone, that it's a hard sell to Canadians for the NDP to get get more support and get their numbers back up, let alone form like a minority government at best. So um, but again, look at your local riding. The NDP. I'm in Northern Ontario. Northern Ontario is normally pretty good for the NDP, and the NDP have taken care of us up here in Northern Ontario. So it'll be interesting moving forward to see how that all plays out, especially being in a more NDP area myself. Um, so yeah, you know what, I might still vote NDP based on my local riding and their candidate, and if it falls in line with me, like it normally does, right? So that's why at this point I'm undecided. Being honest, there's different factors, and we all need to make that decision in our own ways, right? Um, yeah, on that as well, quickly, I see somebody said it here in the comments. Smartvoting.ca, guys, is a great tool. Thank you so much, everyone, for putting that out. Smartvoting.ca. Head on over there. You can find your local riding, and you can see where the polls are sitting at in your local area. So if you want to strategically vote or just keep up with what kind of vote the polls are saying in your local riding, so you're more informed and keep up with the different platforms as well. Again, guys, smartvoting.ca, a great tool that is up and going for Canadians to use moving forward with elections. The rollout was for the Ontario election. It did wonders, did fantastic. We didn't get a good result, but that's not the fault of the app. The app did what it was supposed to do. Um, yeah, so smartvoting.ca, guys. All right, let's keep going. So the Conservatives launches campaign at 11:30. Like I said, even before Mark Carney met with the Governor General, Pierre tripled down on the Carney Liberal Party is the exact same as a true Liberal Party. A liberal is a liberal is a liberal, Polyev says. Again, like I pointed out, guys, there's so many differences between the Liberal Party as it sits now in their view forward under Mark Carney than there was under Justin Trudeau. It is tweaked, it's changed. They're looking at things differently. Even Trudeau was pivoting on a lot of stuff when it came to dealing with the United States, dealing with global trade, everything else. Even Trudeau was working on that stuff before he actually stepped aside and Carney took over, right? So even Trudeau knew that there had to be a pivot in how things were done and pivot in the politics of things. So he really like set kind of just set the groundwork for Carney moving forward, which more than likely they had conversations about and was strategic in some way, right? Even if other leaders as well or other candidates probably were going to be moving in more the same direction as Carney, maybe little differences here and there, but um, they really it is vastly different under Carney now and their view moving forward. Um, he says he would eliminate GST on homes when the current chatter, so he said he would remove GST on home sales when currently, guys, the chatter isn't about removing a little bit of GST on homes, especially when we've had that tax break under the Trudeau Liberals during the holiday season. The conversation or chatter at this point moving forward is eliminating GST altogether, right? The NDP under Singh has brought that up when the Trudeau Liberal government put the pause on the GST. NDP were very boisterous in saying, "Hey, why are we just doing a pause? Why don't we get rid of it altogether? This is a tax that shouldn't be there. It's really like let's just move on from it." Right, so that's where the goalpost is right now. So Pierre's saying he'll get rid of GST on homes, uh, falling short of the goalpost in terms of what the rest of the parties have talked about and constituents are looking at this point. Um, yeah, so the GST on purchases of new homes would be eliminated already, even with a Carney government. So that's you know that's nothing different. Yeah, so that's where that stands. He conservatives. Uh, so talks about limiting further immigration, uh, not highlighting our workforce relies on a strong immigration policy and numbers, and that's where the balance has to come, right? And I think that's something that Mark Carney absolutely realizes is you need to have that balance because we do need the workforce. That's something that Canada has relied on for decades. Um, when it comes to immigration, whether it be through work visas or people becoming Canadian citizens, immigrating to Canada, and taking up positions that they already have training or have already made a career of, that's always been in there. That's always been um, kind of hardwired into the immigration process and how things work. Yeah, absolutely. And really, sorry guys, just quickly in the comments, I really appreciate that. The fact is I'll call out the information, I'll give you the facts, what they said, but I'm not going to sit here and just start calling people names or um, putting them down as an individual. I will poke holes in their platform or their messaging or their policy, but yeah, I don't go after them personally. Um, I do my best to be non-biased in that sense, as it's politics, and at the end of the day, there are certain hard red lines, of course. Racism is a no-no. Anything that's demeaning to any other person or would see them or treat them as less of an individual is a no-no, and I won't stand for that. And I will get heated on that stuff. But otherwise, I mean, I'm willing to have a conversation and just talk about the facts. So I appreciate that. Appreciate that, and that's what more people need to do is just sit, talk about the facts, and do our best to have actual conversations about this stuff. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for the gifts. Again, you guys have been fantastic. Thank you so much. Um, So again, we're talking about Pierre's press conference launching his campaign, and on dealing with Trump, he says he will stare down his threats by dot dot dot. So they asked him what he would do moving forward if he were to win an election, form government, how he would deal with the threats by Donald Trump to both our sovereignty and through tariffs. And I'll get into that, he said. But before I do, I just want to explain this and then we'll get into it. And he never actually said how he'd deal with Trump tariffs or move forward dealing with the United States. Okay, so I'm sorry, nothing on that front. Hopefully, in the upcoming days, you'll hear his plan on how to move forward dealing with Donald Trump in the United States. But until then, no plan for dealing with that stuff from Polyev, from the conservatives. Um, he went on to further say he would fix the liberal borderless policy that has led to immigration levels out of control and drugs pouring across the border. Okay, so we're not borderless. Let's get that, pretty clear. And I will point out, we know we're not borderless because a part of the Donald Trump issues is we're arguing about the border. He's saying that drugs pour into the United States and, all that sort of stuff through our border, and they need to get rid of that imaginary line that's been drawn on maps and just, all right, so we do have a border. We're not borderless. Like, that's not a thing. Okay. Thank you so, wow. Thank you so much for all the roses. Ted, mind boggled. Thank you so much. You are fantastic. You guys, I don't deserve it all. Um, Jane, gaslighting and fear mongering. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly it. Um, it's right out of Trump's playbook. And this is why I say they're the same person in terms of their politics, right? That's why they're aligned. The Republican and Conservative Party are the same damn thing, okay? Um, Pretty much saying we're borderless. That's the Canadian version of saying it's open borders. Remember Trump, under Biden, no, we have open borders. We need to close the borders. It's the same thing. Pierre's sitting here saying, whoa, borderless. We're borderless. People are pouring in, drugs are pouring in because we're borderless. It's the Canadian version, guys. I'm sorry. I am going to make fun of this because it's just like he can't even get his own talking points or be original. It's just a nicer Canadian twist to the American nonsensical talking points. Okay, I'm sorry. Um, Moving on from that, though, I'll try not to make fun of anyone anymore. I apologize for that, Pierre. I apologize if I got a little too out of hand there. Sorry, Pierre, if you're watching. When asked if he would respect Trump, he says he respects the office of the president, but did not answer if he respects the man. And this is key, okay, because he's shifting to saying, I respect the office of the president. So it's squirreling off to the side because if he says that, it's plausible deniability, right? It makes it so he didn't actually say what he thinks of Trump himself. He's keeping it political. Um, yeah. So he won't say that he doesn't respect him because he absolutely does. Again, the same playbook. He has had people that have worked on Trump's campaign working in his office on campaign stuff and rhetoric and messaging. So, like the overlay in that, like, um, yeah, and there was a lot of dodging, guys. I do see your comments. There's been a lot of dodging and just, you know, shifting of the conversation. All right. So says if, oh, guys, I gotta move my puzzle piece. Sorry, I gotta get that puzzle piece in there because if not, Bam. There we go. All right. So says it's the liberals' fault that food is so expensive and they're doing nothing about it. Well, it's not actually the liberals' fault that food is so expensive. Um, and he's saying it's because of liberal spending and yada 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 as to what actually is the issue. Um, But if we're being honest, guys, it could be a government issue. You could put responsibility if you want to say that the government hasn't done enough to regulate and put a cap on grocery prices, meaning that Canadians would be protected from seeing higher grocery prices and inflation get even worse on grocery prices while these companies are making record profits, right? We need to keep this in mind. Since the beginning of the COVID pandemic, grocery companies, whether you're talking about grocery store companies or grocery companies themselves, have been making record profits with shrinkflation, with gougeflation, with lying in different ways on their products in terms of the weight, in terms of what you're actually getting. Okay, all these different things, they've been making record profits. So if you want to say it's the government's fault, it's because they haven't been regulated enough to protect consumers, which is everyday Canadians. So I just saying, if you want to put any sort of onus, it's not in the sense that the conservatives are trying to tell you. Okay. Um, Anyway, so he was asked about getting security clearance. I love this one, okay? So he was asked about getting security clearance. He responded by saying that because he had been in cabinet before, he has clearance that he needs, which is half lying, okay? He has had security clearance in the past because he was under cabinet or a part of cabinet. However, when he ceased being a part of cabinet, right? So when liberals won the election and took over government, when he ceased being a part of cabinet, he lost his security clearance. Okay, that's the part that Pierre doesn't tell people is that he actually lost that security clearance because he wasn't a part of cabinet anymore, and thus meaning he has to then now reapply and be cleared to have the clearance, right? So he's strategically saying that he had the clearance while he was a part of cabinet. He's had it before, right? Plausible deniability to say, oh no, well I had it before, right? Oh no, I didn't say I have it now. I said I had it before. Plausible deniability. That's how they do things. Again, it's the way Trump works, and that's why you see, the aligning. That's why people say Pierre Poilievre is Tiny Trump. They're the same thing because it's plausible deniability in how he says things. Um, yeah, and also, guys, just using still a lot of the same phrasing, like open borders, and a liberal is a liberal is a liberal, axe the tax, bring it home, all the same rhetoric and slogans, talking points. Nothing's really changed in that sense. He hasn't said anything in terms of how he would deal with the United States and the tariffs and trade at all at this point. When that's the biggest thing, that's what Canadians are looking at the most. Yes, we still need to focus on the issues that were going on before all this tariff nonsense. Those are still issues. But in the fronts of Canadian minds, in the voters' minds right now, it's the economy. It's dealing with the tariffs. It's diversifying trade and bolstering our own economy and trying to separate it going forward from being so coupled with the United States. Um, and that's going to be the biggest, I think, moving forward through this election, right? The next, 30, 30 some odd days we have of the election, right? So, and honestly, they called the election for the amount of time that they did. I will say is strategic on the liberal aspect of it, only because it really brings down the chances of Carney maybe making a misstep or saying something wrong, or really just, so it is strategic politically to do so, but I also do think that it's important that we do get this taken care of. And whatever happens, okay, regardless of what party makes up government, what the layout of government is, this way the government has a proper mandate moving forward, dealing with the United States, dealing with tariffs, dealing with trades, and dealing with the threat to Canadian sovereignty. And that's what's on the forefront of Canadian minds across the country. Um, and provinces working together with the federal level of government, being a united front, facing the hardships together. And it really is bringing such wartime sentiment to Canadians in terms of being united, and standing as one. Right? It's the same we saw in the UK during World War II. It's really like it's our own form of being patriotic and standing with one another through the hard times. So, guys, elbows up. Um, we're just getting started. So let's get to work and let's do it together. Okay. Um, yeah, that's pretty well. Singh came out and said, started his campaign as well, guys. Um, Stuff that he highlighted and talked about. He talked about the past with the NDP party. Had fought for and got universal health care in our past, fought for and won pensions in Canada, fought for and helped union movements in Canada in the past. And so this is as a party throughout Canadian history, uh, right? The NDP has bolstered all those things. Points out before Trump that the NDP was instrumental in getting dental care, pharmacare, and the national lunch program put into place. And really, if it wasn't for the NDP being very good politically and using what little power they actually had and using it to full advantage, which was the supply and demand agreement with the Liberal Party, which meant that they supported and made sure that there wasn't a snap election called due to no confidence, as long as the Liberals had worked on and got out these policies, which they did. So that was very much a fantastic political move for the NDP. And guys, we have to make sure that give the credit where credit's due. If it wasn't for Singh and the NDP, we probably wouldn't have those things as of right now, which are things that have really helped Canadians across Canada. Um, so, and again, Mark Carney said he's going to keep those things and expand on those things moving forward. So, hopefully we'll see some consensus from the NDP with Mark Carney on that one. And, as government gets formed, however it sits, hopefully we'll see no issues with expanding that stuff um, moving forward. Says that with the illegal tariff war, people that the people that have built the country are losing their jobs as we speak. And he's not wrong, right? It's the everyday Canadians that have built this country and keep this country moving forward, the economy, and just in general, are the ones that are affected the most. So he's absolutely not wrong. I love his messaging. I love his, pointing to what's happening, being truthful about it, guys. Um, but unfortunately, the NDP as a whole, as a party right now, it doesn't have the support and they can't move forward, unfortunately, the way they're headed. I think it's time for the NDP, whether it's under Singh still, or maybe if he steps aside and they get a new party leader, but it's really time for them to sit down and hammer out um, how they're going to move forward, how they need to pivot, how they need to, in my opinion, really get back to the grassroots um, wave, the party that we saw under, up until Jack Layton. And it was after the late Jack Layton that we really saw kind of a divergence from what the NDP had really bolstered for themselves and where their stance was for so many years kind of veer off and not be so clear, really, to be honest. Um, so, hopefully Singh can find some footing in this election, maybe get a bit more, uh, bit more support as the election moves forward, as they put out a platform, and we see the debates, and hopefully see him at the top of his game. And I wish him luck. I really do. Yeah. So again, guys, Singh highlighted that Carney has always had the interest of billionaires ahead of the people and the working class because he is a part of the richer class. Went on to also call out Pierre Polyev for also just being concerned with the corporate rich. Listen, I can understand where he's coming from. Okay, yes, Carney is on the richer aspect of things, absolutely. Okay. I will not argue with that messaging. However, he has earned that living dealing with things that Canada is facing right now. That is how he has made his wealth, is being in finance. Okay. And that's what Canada needs. So, as much as he's absolutely right, so this is a socialist gathering. And if you want to call it that, by all means, call it that. It's the Progressive Moose News, is what we're doing right now. Um, but yeah, so Singh isn't wrong. Okay, he really isn't. But again, what Carney has for experience in the finance sector, how renowned he is globally, he really like. There's no better option in my opinion. And again, I'm not saying I'm going to be voting liberal, but really, unless somebody does something drastic other than Carney and the Liberals to change their platform or how their messaging is or how they're going to move forward, seems to me, guys, that I'm going to make a prediction as things sit right now that the Liberals will be creating government. It's a matter of if it'll be a minority government or a majority government. That's my prediction right now for this election. And I'll even make sure to clip this and put it out as a recording so I have it. I can look back at it. We can all look back at it and see what happens in the future. Other than that, guys, the leader of the Bloc Québécois also came out and made a brief press conference to launch his campaign. Um, Not much substantive, to be honest, out of it. Talked a lot about Quebec's interests and not the overall Canadian whole picture. Um, because we're more than just Quebec. So I find there is issues within that party's messaging at this point moving forward. I realize they normally don't actually try to form a government. What the bloc essentially is the French Quebec voices really keeping balance within Parliament on the federal level. So, and that he alluded to that and said, that's pretty much what our party is. That's what we've always strived to do, and moving forward, that's what we aim to do as well, right? But they are losing ground to the Liberals in Quebec. So it'd be interesting to see how that plays out. Liberals are picking up ground since Justin Trudeau stepped down and Mark Carney took over the leadership of the Liberal Party. So there is some contention there between the Bloc and the Liberals in Quebec. So we'll see how that plays out moving forward as well in the election. Yeah. So guys, it's 9 o'clock. I'm out of time. I appreciate everybody for coming. Thank you for sticking with me through the show if you're still here. There was a lot of information to sift through and get through, and I didn't even get to it all. So there's still quite a bit, guys. I will probably cover some of what I did tonight, as well as more information that I didn't get to Um, on Wednesday, over on the Mossy side with the Moose, on Beaver Politics. Okay, so that again, the Mossy side is on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 8 p.m. Eastern, guys. So come join me Wednesday and join our other hosts through the week. Monday through Sunday, we've got shows all week over on Beaver Politics. So yeah, for now, guys, I actually have a meeting for Beaver Politics. So thank you for coming. Thank you so much for all the love and support during the live, guys. I really appreciate all of you. We're doing this as a movement, as a community, as one, and we need to do this together. So until Wednesday, guys, thank you for joining me. Come join me next week on Sunday as well. But until then, stay safe, stay sane, take care of your loved ones, take care of yourself, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.